Hello and welcome to the 1000 Authors Show. I'm Vicky Fraser and this is my husband Joe.
Hello.
Today we are drinking spooky drinks and necking painkillers, and if you're watching the video podcast you get to see that we are kind of festively dressed up for Halloween with giant spiders on our heads. Mine's a really fancy spider. Right, so this week we are looking at 4 lurking horrors that will kill your book.
Right. Smooth. Nice.
Thanks. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, good. Good. Well done.
So yeah, 4 lurking horrors that will kill your book. How dare you?
Smooth editing.
Look. Damn it, Jim. I'm not a film editor.
No, you're not.
So, we're talking about and before we actually dive into that, I want to talk about a couple of willful retail horror stories that I've encountered in the last few weeks. So our friend Jodie, hi Jodes, runs a beautiful little shop in Ludlow, and it's a clothes shop and a fashion shop, and it's
Nice things shop.
And I get a lot of my clothes from there, and Jodie helps me to not look like this. And she does all sorts of things with her shop. And the most recent thing she's done is a colour workshop.
Okay. A colour workshop.
Yeah. You're supposed to ask, what's a colour workshop?
How does that work?
Okay.
What's one of them?
So she randomly met this woman who works with colour. So she helps people figure out what colours look good on them. Joe's being Emperor Palpatine, by the way. Does this quite a lot. Not just on Halloween. So this woman helps people figure out what colours look good on them and what colours they can wear, and what colours look good on different parts of their body.
Really hot under here.
Okay. And so Jodes did this workshop. She got this lady to come and do a workshop at the shop, and loads of people were really interested, and it went really, really well, and they're going to be doing some more of them. And it's a really good idea, because I never know what colours are going to suit me, because I really like yellow, but I think that yellow makes me look like a dead person.
Looks you look pale.
Thanks. But she was telling me that there's loads of other shops in Ludlow, and she suggested to a few of them, told them what she was doing, and said, we've got this great person, and she helps customers sort out colour, and she'll come and do a workshop for you. And they were just like, no, not interested. And Jones was like, why? And they're like, too much trouble, people won't be interested, blah, 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 it's not going to make us any money. And that's just the dumbest thing that I have ever heard, because I know for a fact that every single person who came on Jodie's colour workshop walked out of her shop with a couple of items in colours that they now knew suited them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, you can't, I just think that some people you can't help, So it's almost like willful business failure.
Choosing beggars.
Huh?
Choosing beggars.
Choosing beggars?
Mm. People who choose to be poor.
Oh.
People who are offered the marvellous things.
Yes.
And choose not to accept.
Yes. It's just crazy talk. And then I want to contrast that to the experience that I had in a bookshop that, was one of the best days of my life, I think. Not the best day of my life, because that was we married you. Yeah. But one of the best days I've had, certainly in recent times, and it was a birthday present from my cousin Charlene.
Hi, Charlene.
Who is currently trekking up Everest.
Cool.
Like, for real. And she bought me a reading spa at a shop called Mr. B's in Bath. And so I schlepped down to Bath for the day. I got up at 5 a.m. and slept down to Bath. And it was just so cool. So this is a bookshop. It's a bookshop, right? It sells books. Doesn't particularly have a niche. It's not a travel bookshop. It's not like a fancy bookshop. It's a bookshop. And one of the things that they do there is they have reading spas. And so you can buy one of these. And I don't know how much you buy it for. Obviously, it was a gift. But included in it, you get like a £55 book voucher as well to spend. But when you book it, they email you and ask you what your tastes are. What do you like to read? That kind of thing. And so you tell them, and when you get there, they bring up this pile of books for you that they've already picked out based on your answers, and you go through them, and then you have a cup of tea, and
they put you in a nice room upstairs, haven't
nice reading room, yeah, with a fireplace and all the rest of it, and kind of they've got shelves of their favourite books and that kind of thing. And then they talk to you for like 45 minutes about what you enjoy and the books you enjoy and why you like them. And, really, and they're very knowledgeable. The people who work in this bookshop are incredibly knowledgeable.
Okay.
And the guy who, Henry, hi Henry.
Hi Henry.
The guy who did my reading spa, they'd obviously matched me up with him based on the answers that I gave, because he was really knowledgeable about fantasy, science fiction, biography, that kind of thing. So, because I like that kind of thing. And it was just fabulous. We had this great conversation, and by the end of it, I had a pile of books almost as tall as I was. I sent you a picture, didn't I?
Yes.
And so I spent my voucher that was part of the reading spa, obviously, on a bunch of those books, and then an extra 40 quid on top of it. And it's just an amazing business model. And it's not just because it's a good business model, because obviously I'm going to go and buy more books than probably the voucher suggests, because suddenly I can justify spending 40 quid on top of the voucher. But also because it's just a delightful thing to do for customers. It's such a good idea. And it introduced me to a load of books and authors that I would never have picked up.
So that's a proper premium service, isn't it?
Proper premium service. And so there are multiple ways that you can apply that in your business, no matter what your business is.
So, in time for Christmas, if you're struggling, but somebody reads quite a lot, then Mr. B's Reading Spa, down in Bath.
Yeah, it's called Mr. B's Emporium of Reading Delights.
Excellent.
So
that's a cracking gift.
That is a cracking gift.
And we're not getting any kickbacks. It's just a good thing.
Not getting any kickbacks, so it's just great. But it's made me want to. I was actually researching how to open a bookshop earlier. Anyway, back to Halloween. Oh, that's a good evil laugh. So yeah, we're talking tonight about the 4 lurking horrors. The 4 lurking horrors that will kill your book. By the way, anyone who's watching the podcast, my facial expression then is because I keep getting a notification on my computer and I don't know what the fuck it is. And Joe's supposed to fix it for me.
I will fix it for you.
You will.
But it's on a Mac, therefore I'll have to, I don't know, get a bit arty about it.
Today, it being Halloween or thereabouts,
4 lurking horrors that will kill your book.
We are talking about the spooks, ghouls and monsters lurking in the shadows, waiting to destroy your book, your confidence and maybe your reputation.
And you're going to have to stop that.
Oh, but I'm enjoying myself. So, lurking horror. This is lurking horror number 1 that most would-be authors blunder into. Ghost readers.
Ghost readers?
Oh, yeah. Imaginary readers. Writing for imaginary readers or just for yourself.
Okay.
It's very common. Also very common in any kind of marketing writing, really. This spider leg is doing my Sweden. But yeah, the most arduous part of writing a book or any other marketing copy is actually also the most crucial part, and it's the part that most people don't bother with, and that is figuring out exactly who you're writing for and why. And there are 2 reasons why most people don't bother with this. Actually, I think 3 reasons. First of all, it really genuinely is difficult. It's not an easy thing to do. To do the customer avatar thing.
It's actually tricky.
It is actually tricky.
It's not much fun either.
Oh, no, it is fun.
You think it's fun?
Oh, yeah, because it's digging into people's heads and psychology and the reasons behind why they do things.
And it feels like, to some people, it might feel like getting in the way of actually writing the book. You know, they're thinking, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to plan my book and write it.
Yeah.
And what you're saying is, don't do that, figure out who the reader is.
Yeah. And I totally get that. Cause if we make an analogy for decorating, it's like washing the walls with sugar soap before you paint. It's really bloody dull, but you'll get so much better finish if you do it. And that's kind of the point. And you will find writing your book easier as well if you do this groundwork to start with. This is part of the reason why books don't get finished, because they kind of tail off and you're not quite sure who you're writing it for, why you're writing it, what the point of it is. Doing this groundwork right at the beginning, that, you know, all of those problems will go away.
Fixes your problems.
So yeah, 3 reasons why it happens. 1 is hard work. It is hard work. It's difficult to do. But if you pre-order my book from moxiebooks.co.uk/pre-order the book, I actually walk you through how to do it. And my beta readers were like, oh my God, this has changed everything for me. The way I walked them through it. So second reason I think that it happens is that the writer gets really overexcited and just cracks on with writing without really giving any thought to the audience.
Yeah, none of that procrastination nonsense. Just get in and write.
Yeah, and I understand that as well. And there's kind of, I'm not pointing fingers, I'm not poking at people because I have been guilty of doing a similar thing in the past. But it's a problem because it's too late by the time you've got halfway through your book.
Yes. You discover there's only 2 people in the planet who want to read it, and you're one of them, and the other one's your husband who's just being nice.
Exactly. Yeah. That's mean. Third reason is that the writer is arrogant enough to think that just because they're interested in what they have to say, everybody else will be as well.
All right. Crikey.
Yeah, there are people out there like that. I've met some of them. So, yeah, you've got to... I mean, if you want to write a book just for you, just so that you can have a book on your shelf, go wild. I have no problem with that. But if you are writing a book because you want genuinely to help other people and you want it to help build your business, you're going to need to figure out who you're writing for. So the remedy for ghost busting ghost readers is to figure out exactly who your ideal reader is and do it before you ever put pen on paper. You'll save yourself a lot of time, effort, and money.
Okay.
So if you might be thinking that you are your ideal reader, because that's how I started, which is great. It's a good start. But if you're your only ideal reader, then you're going to be in big trouble.
Well, you're going to spend a lot of time and effort on something that nobody reads.
Except for your mum.
Your mum.
Yeah. And that's not going to help. So you've got to do the work, do the research. If you think that you're your ideal reader, there probably are more people like you, but you've got to go out and talk to them. You've got to find out what people want and need. You've got to find out what motivates them. And you've got to decide if your big idea for your book fulfills that for them. And if it doesn't, tweak it, change it, talk to them, or don't write the book at all.
Pick a different book to write.
Pick a different book to write. So when I first started thinking about how the hell do you write a book, that was actually based on the research that I did for the course that I put together. And I did a lot of research with people before I made that course and sold it. And I made sure that I found out exactly what people wanted to know, what they needed to know from the course. And a lot of that went into the book that I've written.
Cool.
Yeah. So what is the big lurking horror number 2, Joe?
Big lurking horror number 2 would be dastardly details.
Yes.
Just because your book is self-published, it doesn't need to look like it was put together by children.
No.
It used to be super difficult, and that's not dissing any children out there who want to write a business book. You're more than welcome. But it used to be really difficult to make a book look professional. It used to be a thing that only traditional publishers could do. They had all the software, they had all the skills, they had all the tech. It was only them who could do it. So self-published books, or
they looked self-published.
They looked self-published. They were on cheap paper. The margins were wrong. The typeface was wrong. The whole, you'd get it and you go, this feels like a really cheap, crappy book.
And sometimes you will read a book, and I still do this sometimes. Sometimes you'll read a book and you're like, this book feels off, and I'm not sure why.
Mm-hmm.
And I can probably tell you 10 reasons why it might be off, but you might not notice it as just a normal reader. As an expert, I could probably look at it and go, I can tell you exactly why that's not right and why it feels amateurish to you.
Yeah.
And that's why paying attention to the details is so important.
There are some subtle cues and subtle things that let people know this is a proper book.
Yeah.
And you need to work out what they are.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're publishing an amateurish book.
Yeah. And I can just give you an example of that right now. One of the things that you might not know or that might not occur to you is that in every book, that's been traditionally published, and all the good self-published ones, there are blank pages in the books. So chapters it's not a hard and fast rule, but a lot of books tend to start the chapters on right-hand pages, which means that sometimes you'll have a blank left-hand page, which is fine. A blank page should be blank. A telltale sign of an amateurish book is that it's got a page number on it, or a running header at the top.
Ooh.
Or something like that. And it's not something that you would even notice flicking through it and reading it, except subconsciously, where you would go, this book doesn't feel quite like a professional. Yeah, it's not quite like a professional book, and it's little tiny details like that you might not think of, that you don't know because you're not, you don't know enough about the publishing industry. Which is why it's really important to pay attention to the details.
I guess if you were going to be like the most read author of the next decade, maybe you could forge your own styles and change the whole opinion of every reader on the planet, and get people to kind of go, you know what, actually I prefer it this way when you make your quirky decisions. But probably not.
That's dangerous to do as well, though, because, and the reason we're kind of going a little bit off tangent, we should do a whole podcast on this at some point, because this is it's a really interesting topic. But there are reasons why there are conventions in publishing, and it's not just snobbery. It's because books have been done that way for so long that that's what we expect to see.
It is kind of culturally steeped into us.
Yeah. So, and I read a book not so long ago called Normal People by Sally Rooney, and it was part of the book club, because I'm part of a real life book club with real people. And I would never have picked that book up normally. I've read some fantastic books through that club. This one was not one of them. Did not enjoy it. For a variety of reasons, but one of the reasons I found it difficult to read because she doesn't use speech marks.
Yeah.
And that again is like, pay attention to stuff like that, because I know what she was trying to do. She's probably read Trainspotting.
Yep.
Irving Welsh is a fucking master at that stuff, and he was never ambiguous. The problem with the book that I read was that the speech was ambiguous. You didn't always know who was talking. I often found myself flipping back, so I was like, I can't remember who's talking here, and I had to go back and work out based on
Yeah.
the paragraphs. And it's like, don't make your reader do that. It's like, you have to be good enough. You have to. She hadn't established her characters' voices well enough for me to be able to tell who was speaking.
Sure.
And that was a really big problem. So if you're going to break conventions, make sure that you're good enough to do it in such a way that. And we're talking about fiction here, but the same applies to non-fiction.
I mean, step one is knowing the convention.
You've got to know the rules.
You've got to know the rules so you can break them. Otherwise, you're just putting together a bad book.
Yeah. So, dastardly details will trip you up. If your book looks amateurish, people will assume you're an amateur.
Mm-hmm.
Sad but true. And it can do a lot of damage to your reputation. You know, if people are looking at your book and it's a little bit shit in terms of production values.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're handing this beautiful thing that you are proud of to people, here is my work and my life and my thoughts, and the first thing they do is go, they've got all the odd numbers on the left or whatever it is that's wrong.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. So odd page numbers should be on the right.
Yeah, and they're just going to go.
I've seen books that don't do that. It's just like, and you know, page numbering that starts right from the very first page. No. It needs to start from the first page, which comes after the table of contents. So, and all this stuff, by the way, you can pick up in my book.
Lots of details, but you need to know.
You do. So the remedy for sorting out your dastardly details that will trip you up is invest in professional help if you need it. Definitely don't try and do it on the cheap. At the very least, find out everything that you need to do. You know, read enough professional
read a book that tells you how to do it.
Read a book that tells you how to do it. Or even just read books. Read books that are traditionally published and look at the conventions, look at how they do it.
But there's a lot of subtle stuff to pick up there, though. I don't think... before I started...
You're very sweet. You're trying to sell my book, aren't you?
Well, a little bit. But I think there is some good stuff in there that needs you know...
Yeah.
No, I've never seen it stated elsewhere.
No, we'll do a whole podcast on this. You're right, because people don't talk about it very much. So yeah, invest a few things that you want to really keep in mind. So invest in a professional cover designer, like Julia, who does my book, Julia Brown at Brown Art Design. Hi, because it really does make a difference. If you try and design your own book cover, it probably will look like you did. And unless you are a designer, that's not a good thing.
Yeah, if you open Word and get some word art and clip art and stuff, it's like, no.
Yeah, there are. I know that. Oh God, I can't remember his name. That's terrible. I'll try and remember and put it in the notes. But there is a guy who has put. I think it's Creative Indie, and he's put together a cover design package for very simple covers that you can produce a professional looking cover yourself if you want to. That kind of thing, if you want to do it, go for it, but make sure that you are doing something like that and not just, like you said, going into word art and kind of slapping stuff together. I would really recommend getting a professional to do it. You can go high end like I do with Julia, or you can go, there are some really good people on places like Fiverr. But
there are also some pretty cheap people on places like Fiverr.
Yeah, just make sure you have a look and see what they've done before. Make sure you get an editor, or at the very least a proofreader. If you're going to edit your own work, that's fine. I edit my own work, but I do that for a living. If you're not comfortable doing it, get someone to help you. Invest in a professional, and at the very least get your book proofread, because nothing screams amateur like typos.
It's really hard to proofread your own work because you know what you meant to say.
Yeah, and that's what your brain will see.
And your brain will fill it in and sort it out and put the comma in and make it make sense in your head.
Yeah. Because
it did when you wrote it.
And even a professional proofreader probably won't catch every single thing. I've had several pairs of eyes on my new book now, and I guarantee you there'll still be stuff that slips through. I'm not talking about one or two things. People will forgive that. Even in traditionally published books, you will find I've found typos and things. But if it's riddled with typos, if every other page has something on it that's wrong that should have been picked up by a proofreader, that's going to stick out like a siren. Beta readers. Get people to beta read your book, because I cannot tell you how useful it was to get beta readers to read mine. It was fantastic. My book has changed substantially from what it started out to what it is now, and it's so much better. So beta readers are great, and you can give them perks and things. You don't pay beta readers; they do it because they want to help you, which is a fantastic thing.
Yeah.
Interior book design. Either get a professional to do it for all the reasons that we've just talked about, or get advice, find out exactly how to do it.
Yeah.
Proof copy, get a proof copy. Do not just send it to print and print 500 copies without getting a proof copy, because you never know what it's going to look like until it is in your hands. And even then, things slip through the net, and I can tell you from painful and expensive experience that it does. So check it again, and download the final print checklist from my website, pre-order my book and you get a bunch of free stuff, including the final print checklist, which you can download. It is as comprehensive as I can make it. I'm going to be adding to it as I go along because there's always new stuff to add. But I never send anything to print without checking it and signing it myself as if I was a client. And if I'm working for clients, I get them. I don't send their book to print until they've signed it and sent it back to me. So, okay, lurking horror number 3.
Deadly delusions of grandeur.
Yes, I think that Field of Dreams and Wayne's World have a lot to answer for.
Wayne's World was referencing Field of Dreams.
I know it was, but I haven't seen Field of Dreams and I have seen Wayne's World. So.
Have you not?
No.
Oh man, it's terrible.
Is it Kevin Costner?
Yes.
Okay.
He builds a baseball pitch in his wheat field or something. It was cornfield.
And says, if you build it, they will come.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which they won't! Unless you tell them. Just because you've written a book, even if it's a brilliant book, doesn't mean anyone's actually going to buy it. You gotta put the work in. I feel like we don't need to spend too much time on this because we've said it a lot.
Buy your book.
Buy my book. You've got to create a following. You've got to give people a reason to buy your book, and you've got to put the work in it. Once you've written it, yes, it's hard work to write a book, and it's an amazing achievement. And if you're doing it, yay! But don't stop there because it'll be a tragedy to just let your book die a little death because you'll
have a box full of books in the cupboard under the stairs.
And
that will be that.
And do not underestimate how much space 500 books takes. A lot of space. You can build quite a big fort. So, get comfortable marketing, basically. The remedy to the deadly delusions of grandeur that will kill you and the kind of build it, they will come attitude. Get comfortable marketing. Build yourself an email list. It's absolutely non-negotiable. Build yourself an email list. It is the cheapest and easiest way to contact lots of people. If you offer them something that they're interested in, and then get them to opt into your email list and give you permission to email them as often as you want, that's worth thousands.
That's worth a whole income.
That's worth 6 figures a year and up. And I know because, hello, I'm doing it. So, build an email list, non-negotiable. Create a website.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't got a website and you're running a business, then I'm astonished. But you need a website for your book as well. You don't need to maintain multiple websites, but you do need... So if you go to howthehelldoyouwriteabook.com, you get redirected to moxiebooks.co.uk/order the book. So
you build you buy multiple domains,
yeah,
but they all kind of aim at the same-ish place.
Yeah, businessforsuperheroes.com goes to my Business for Superheroes book. So I don't maintain a load of websites because ain't nobody got time for that. But you do need a website. You need to build buzz, which means you need to talk about your book to everybody, friends, family, colleagues, potential clients, get people to talk about it. Write articles, do guest interviews on podcasts and radio shows and blogs. Talk to as many people as possible and find influencers who can help you sell your books as well. So I have a list of people that I'm going to send a copy of my book to along with cool stuff and say, I've written this book. I think people in your audience might find it useful. Would you please promote it for me?
Cool.
And it's as simple as that. I've already had a bunch of people say yes. I'm going to do that, people that I already know. Find influencers who can help you sell books. They might be in your industry. They might be kind of parallel to your industry. So, for example, for me, people like accountants would be really good. Designers, web people.
Freelancers.
Anybody who works with small business owners, basically. Find people who can help. Get comfortable marketing.
Yeah.
Because you have to. If you want to sell your books and get your books to grow your business, you're going to have to get comfortable marketing. Right. Lurking horror number 4.
The biggest demon of all lives inside your own head.
Yes, it's true. It's your inner dickhead. If you don't believe that you can write a good book and make it work for your business, you will never do so. It might kind of sound like woo-woo, but it isn't. Believing won't necessarily make it so, but if you believe that you can't, then you definitely won't be able to do it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I think so.
Yeah, because if you're like... your brain sabotages you, doesn't it? Because if you're telling yourself, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this...
Then you can't.
Then you can't. You're going to live up to it. Was it Henry Ford who said, whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right?
Whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't, you're right.
Yeah. And, I would modify that to say, just because I believe I can fly, I'm not going to be able to do it without an aeroplane or, a wingsuit.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to kind of modify it. But if I believe I can't, I'm definitely never going to be able to do something.
Sure.
And I see it all the time when I'm teaching pole and trapeze, actually, that somebody will go into learning a new move and they will say to me, I'm never going to be able to do this. And I'm like, then you're not. If that's how you're going into it, you're not. But how about we start with something you can do and build up to it?
We try and we practice and we get stronger and we get better and we get grippier and we can do it.
Yeah, exactly. So you've got to sort out your inner dickhead, because if you don't, it's going to destroy you. And that goes for all areas of your business and not just writing a book. The problem isn't that you can't do something, it's usually that you won't. And there's a big difference.
It's true.
So, what's your remedy? What's the remedy for the one that is inside your head?
Self-belief. Taking it in small steps. Tiny beetle steps.
Tiny beetle steps. On brand, Joe.
On brand, sorry. Tiny beetle steps. You got to find the evidence that allows you to reject your inner dickhead.
Yes.
When your inner dickhead is saying, you can't do that, you can say, well, actually, I can, because look at this thing I've just done.
Yeah.
Look at that thing I did. I can do that.
I think there's a red mite on my desk.
Nice. What's the takeaway?
I was just going to add to the... yeah, because quite often, I don't know about your inner dickhead. Do you have an inner dickhead?
No, I have goldfish.
I don't think that's true. Do you never have a voice in your head that says, you're not good enough to do that?
No.
Really? Jesus. I bet that loads... You're such a dick. I bet there are loads of people listening to this podcast who are like, I have an inner dickhead and he's a real dick. That's kind of the point. My inner dickhead will quite often say to me, you're shit. Nobody's going to want to read this. Why are you even bothering? People think you're stupid. People are laughing at you. And yeah, I know, right? Because the idea of saying that out loud to somebody else is horrifying. I would never say that to somebody else, and nor would you, dear listener. So what you have to do is go and find evidence that shows that your inner dickhead is not only wrong, but he's also a mean liar. Because I can go and point out, there's a whole shelf full of evidence behind me of people that, think that I am good enough and I have helped them, and, it's quite easy. It's easy to go and find that evidence, but you have to kind of, beat your inner dickhead into submission first, and then go and do it. So the takeaway this week is that it's perfectly possible to destroy demons and things.
Big pointy stick straight through the heart.
Big pointy stick straight through the heart. So writing a book, I think the takeaway is writing a book is not a magic bullet.
Silver bullet.
It's not a silver bullet, yes. Oh, it's not a silver bullet. It will not magically fix an ailing business, and it will not magically bring new customers and clients to your door. You've got to do the work, and to do the work, you have to treat yourself as your own best client.
Treat yourself as your own best client?
Yeah. So, would you do your best work for your clients? Of course you would. Then why wouldn't you do your best work for yourself?
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Which is, what I was saying before, do the groundwork. Check out who your ideal customer is. Pay attention to the details, because your readers are worth it and you're worth it. Don't assume that if you build it, they're going to come. You need to put the work in to market it, and believe that you can do it. Because you can do it.
Don't just sit down and start bashing out words.
No.
Do the work.
Do the work. So that's all for this week's Halloween episode.
Excellent.